Bach here, sitting down with James Montgomery, Food by the Word. James, thank you for sitting down with me.
Definitely.
And thank you for taking the time to share about your business. We're Refinery 46. With each of us, we get a chance to see each other on a regular basis. You and I were just laughing about how many great conversations we've had, how we've become good friends in a short period of time. So, very excited to sit down and ask you these questions so that we can all learn and find similarities and figure out ways on how we can help each other. But to get started, James, tell us a little bit about how you got started with Food by the Word.
Okay, Food by the Word, it was actually 4 years ago. Yesterday was the 4th anniversary of Food by the Word. God birthed Food by the Word into me. At the time, and this was in 2016, I had got let go from a job. I was an operation manager for a moving company, and it was very interesting. It was interesting what God was doing at the time, because we sat down and we were like, don't feel like you're a good fit here, so we decided to part ways, and that's the conversation. And I didn't disagree, and so I knew something. We both knew at that time, and so. But after a month, so I went home that day. No game plan other than, okay, I got to get on the thing. So after a month, finding nothing, putting everything out there. After a month and a lot of soul searching, one of my fifth grandchild was born. He was born on the 9th of September. And on the 14th, as I'm sitting there thinking, I need a legacy for my family, for my children, for my grandchildren. And it never really dawned on me, because I had planned, work and career and so forth going forward. I never thought about having my own business, but as I sat there, it was September the 14th, 2016, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, God, I wish people would just, eat better, eat just the way that God, just the way that you made it for it, and God birthed Food by the Word into me at that moment and said, this is what you do. So initially, my plan was to open up a deli-style restaurant, deli-style sandwiches, because I love deli-style sandwiches. But everything was going to be all natural and organic, the best stuff for us. So as I started down the rabbit hole of developing Food by the Word that day, and the business and the concept and everything, I started to learn, okay, what do I need to do to open up a restaurant? Now I've run and managed other restaurants and other businesses for people.
You've been in that industry for years.
Oh yeah. So I know everything there is to know about running a business, but I've never started a business. That's a whole nother animal. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to find out everything I need to do to get this business up and running. Okay, so what I need, and I have no money. Let's go back to that part. There's no money. There's zero money. Mind you, I'm unemployed. I've never been unemployed in my adult life. Here I am unemployed. Me and my wife, and so it's like, okay, starting from zero, well, under zero, whatever's less than zero, but going from there. So, but I started down the rabbit hole of, what do I need to do to get into a building? Okay, so I started researching buildings. Okay, well, and then I have to get licensed and so forth and so on. And so then I learned I have to get in, well, how about I start a food truck? Start small, work my way up. What do I need to do to get a food truck? So I found out everything I needed to do to get a food truck. Okay, I'm like, well, I got to get into a commercial kitchen. I got to get licensed, so forth and so on. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll start catering, and then build up to the food truck. Mind you, zero money. So I'm like, okay. So I got the little money together, and I started, and that's the thing, started from zero. And one thing that God put on my heart is, do everything free that you can do, But once it was birthed into me, that passion just welled up, and it was real. I was 42 years old at the time. And I could tell, I knew for a fact that this was something totally foreign to me. The feeling, the passion, the drive, and it just has gone on and snowballed from there, and the passion's only gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. But that's where Food by the Word was birthed at, 4 years ago. Now the business model's changed quite a bit. Now we're focused on providing quality and healthy food options for our workspaces. What does that mean? Sourcing the best and quality foods that we can for, my focus is people at work. Where you're at work at right now, that's my focus. I want to feed you, provide food while you're on the go. Because, many of us are on the go, or we're in our, now, and since 2020, a lot of folks are in their house or in their vehicle or whatever. Food by the Word wants to provide you healthy and quality foods and where you're at. during the middle of the day. And so that's the biggest focus there. So we've gone from a sandwich all the way down to providing healthy and quality food options for our workspaces, the best waters, just different things, fruits and snacks and nuts, and just basically, and a lot of the items would be considered gourmet because I got some awesome sources, but the reality of it is I want to make it affordable as well. That's the other piece. So some of people call some of my waters fancy. I don't consider them fancy, but they're good. They're high quality waters, but I offer them at a really, economical price. And that's another part of what God is doing with Food by the Word, is keeping things within the price of the average person.
What is your vision of Food by the Word?
Food by the Word, the vision is nothing small. Food by the Word, the vision is multiple units throughout the city of Indianapolis, throughout all of the, where we see a lot of food deserts. I envision Food by the Word market stores in every single neighborhood, in every single underserved neighborhood to start with, all throughout the city, then throughout the state, then throughout the region, then, nationally, then globally. Nothing small. Food by the Word, so nothing small. So the vision for Food by the Word is zero limits, because God is doing the work here. He's doing, this is his thing. He's driving this thing. So the vision, the literal vision, is global. Global Food by the Word market stores globally. That's I could get bigger because I can take that all the way to Mars. But
it's happening right now, right?
It's happening. It's a thing.
James, if you had a magic wand, and where would you be 3 years from now?
3 years from now, it's interesting. A magic wand 3 years from now. 3 years from now, I'd be in the national consciousness. It's taken 4 years to get people's mind wrapped around the brand of Food by the Word, just the actual, phrase, the name, Food by the Word. If I had a magic wand in 3 years, it's for people to understand the full mission, and that this is a Christ-centered business that's always going to glorify God first while providing quality and healthy food options for our workspace. So what does that mean? Exactly what it says. And so in 3 years, if I had a magic wand, nationally, we'd be everywhere. We'd be literally everywhere, serving and providing average people with nourishing food that edifies their bodies and supplies to their healthy lifestyle choices that will edify them towards what God has created for them to be.
Yeah. Hindsight's 20/20, right?
Oh,
We've heard
yeah.
that many times.
Oh, yeah.
We sense that, we experience that a lot more in the when we're building a company and a business. But what is something you wish you would have known before starting Food by the Word?
That's like the best question in the world. The one thing that I wish I would have known was self-mastery. I wish I would have known self-mastery. Up until the end, and it's actually a conversation I push to a lot of people that are around me and so forth, but getting to know yourself to the highest level that you can, and that self-mastery piece. Because what happens is we have a great idea. We might even have the finances to get behind it at the time. And then a year later, we're closing up shop. We're out, $150,000, it's an empty building because we didn't know who we were as an individual. So the one thing in hindsight that I would have loved to know, but at the same time, though, I had to, walk into this and get to that point of learning, mastering myself. And that came actually about a year after within the first year of developing Food by the Word is when I started mastering myself. And that came from being inspired by those closest to me. They started directing me. They said, I see you're on a journey. Check this out. I want you to start looking at you. And these were some of the elders that were around me, and I thank God for them. And they said, you're on a journey. I'm like, I'm on a journey. You're on a journey. And I'm like, okay. And so I started to, really learn who I was. Now, mind you, I was 42, 43. I'm like, I know who I am. No, you don't. And that's the reality. But what God has revealed to me over the past few years is, you knew who you were, but you forgot. So now you need to be reintroduced to who I created you to be. And so, self-mastery. That's the that's the magic pill. And I pass that around to everybody. I was telling my grandson just a couple weeks ago, because he's 12 and he's ready. I want to get this life figured out. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, you're gonna spend the rest of your life learning. Yeah. Right now, just worry about mastering you. Yeah. And whatever you end up doing will come. God's plan for you is God's plan for you. But you just worry about mastering you.
That's key. I have a question in regards to, has the government helped or hurt you in any way?
That's I love that question. I love that question because here's the thing, and when I look back in retrospect, I've been on an intensive study. My father, to give you a little background on my father, he's got more degrees than a stove. He's learned everything that we've all had to learn the hard way. He's had multiple lives, and a few years ago, we started into some in-depth conversations. And one of the conversations we started having a lot on was capitalism. And this is probably about maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I actually started recording him. And I was actually listening to him a few months ago. But we started on the conversation of capitalism and the government and the way that the country's set up and everything. One thing that as I've gone down this rabbit hole and started to really understand is most people know the word capitalism but have zero idea what it actually means. What that looks like is, it's not that complicated, but the way that the system is set up, government is to work for, in capitalism, government works for business, simply put. Works for business. Oh, okay, well, if that's the case, then, well, if I need to make the government work for me, so now how does that work for me and my business at this level? Okay, well, there's so many levels. Okay, well, we're not Amazon, obviously. We don't have Amazon money, so they, the government works for Amazon in a little bit of a different way than it works for, food by the word at this point. But I look at that, though. I look at that and I think about that. So what the government has done, they move, over the years, I've seen the, roads moved. I've seen, regulations changed. I've seen regulations added. I've seen deregulation. I've seen a lot of different things in business. I've seen, laws change. This is how we do it. You better not do it any other kind of way. Okay, we don't do it that way anymore. I've seen legislation after legislation. I've seen a lot of policy. I follow a lot of politics, if you can tell. So when it comes to what government has done to and or for business, my thoughts on government and business are simply, I was told something when I was a young manager back at Donato's. That's where Donato's was like college for me. I love Donato's as a company. That's as a brand. That's where I learned the importance of brand building. Yeah, I really did, and I was there for almost 16 years. But I learned early off in my management career there, McDonald's had purchased Donato's. Mm-hmm. The culture of McDonald's is, if you're in business, I don't care where you are in the world, if you're in business and you don't pay attention to what McDonald's does, you're not really paying attention to business. Yeah. They came in with, oh my goodness, the machine was ridiculous. The amount of leverage that they came in with was off the scales. But one of the statements that was made early in my management career, this is why we have lawyers. That was the kind of the corporate ideology. And I'm like, I can see that. This is why we have lawyers. What does that look like? Okay, well, in business, basically you need a legal team. Oh, yeah, because why? Because as you grow and scale, this is where a lot of people have problems with. They want to scale, but they don't understand. The laws are, this is why politics, and it all interlocks. But they move to what you can move them to. If you own the most property in the area and you provide most to the tax base in the area, they're listening to you. Oh, okay. So that means I need to being a part of the area, and then because otherwise I'm just walking around talking crazy. So government's not listening to me because why? Because I'm not a part of capitalism. Because I'm not a part of the process. So in order for me to get my word heard, I have to become part of the process. Oh, now I get it. So when it comes to government's going to do what we make it do from a business standpoint, because government's here to support and to provide for business. If that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
James, I know that you and I have had many conversations and shared personal trials, tribulations, success stories, and what we've learned along the way. In regards to aspiring entrepreneurs, someone that's taking a look at entrepreneurship, what is something that you would tell them about what it's really like?
And then I'm actually go back to one of my answers a moment ago is the self-mastery. But here's the thing. One of the biggest parts and most important parts about that self-mastery, you have to master yourself, because what's going to happen is your immediate response, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to go to my friends and family. Hey, friends and family, I'm going to start a business. There's a sad reality that no matter how old you are, you're going to find out that your friends and family think that's the dumbest thing in the world, and you're stupid for thinking about it. And why would you do a thing like that? Why would you run? And you're going to find, there's a possibility that you're going to find yourself in a place that you've never been in your entire life. You're going to look to the left and the right of you, and everybody's like, not with you. It's like, not with you. And if you're not, if internally you're not, self-aware enough to be able to handle that, it could destroy you. It'll either destroy you, or it'll deter you, or it will definitely put a dead stop to whatever you're planning on doing. And so, if you know who you are, everyone else will know who you are. And that's the most important thing. I mean, I don't care how great you make a cupcake. I don't care how, if you make the best sandwich. I don't care if you've got and I use this phrase, every $1 million idea is great until it takes $1 million to get it off the ground. The reality of it is if you're not internally strong enough to deal with the adversities, they're going to be personal adversities. It's enough to come out here and deal with the government and the laws and get certifications and find out, what I can do and what I can't do. That's hard enough in and of itself. And then to stay in compliance, just to run a business is hard enough within itself. Right. Not to worry about, well, my parents feel like this. Well, my spouse feels like this. Well, my children feel like this. Well, well, my friends, where'd everybody go?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, I had to pull this up because you and I are connected on all the social media platforms. And it was yesterday you put, and people aren't going to be able to see this, but there's a photo of someone on the top that says, I got the job. And then it shows a little heart, 254 people, comments, 74, and then right below it, same guy, same scenario, except it says, I started my business. There's only 7 hearts and 3 comments, and I bet some crickets along the way.
Oh yeah. I saw that from a guy that's on Instagram that I got. I think he's like out in California or something. I said I'm gonna have to repost this, and I'm like,
how true is that?
It's so true, and that's something. Mind you, I was 42. I was 42 before I even contemplated starting a business. So for 42 years, I never had any idea. I had to do a lot of soul searching. I actually had to go back and do some repenting, because when my sister started her business 16 years ago, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I was that guy. I had to apologize. I'm like, it broke my heart when I'm like, oh my goodness, I was that guy.
Man, and like what? Like, and until you're in a situation And you've got a very small percentage of the population that own and run businesses. Until you're in that situation, you have no idea how difficult and how alone you feel.
Yep.
If people would genuinely get an opportunity to know that, they wouldn't do that to anybody.
Man.
They'd give more support and say, hey, listen,
yes.
I don't know what you're doing, but if there's any way I could help support it, man, good for you. Good for stepping out there.
That's it.
And, I hear it's a tough route, but man, good for you.
That's it. I mean,
wish you the best.
And I never, and we take for granted that the closest ones to us are there. They've been there through everything up to that point in your life, and from birth, and then to sit down and God has used. There's been so many teachable moments for me, because we grew up in an era in our generation. We had a I don't have to prove myself to anybody, mentality. Oh, God said, well, I never told you that. No, you got to prove it. And I had to realize I have to prove myself to my wife. I have to prove myself to my children. I have to prove myself to my father. I have to prove myself to my sister. I do have to prove myself. Oh, now I see your point. And I had to realize for 42 years they knew me like this. Then I pop up one day with a bright idea. Guess what, everybody? I'm gonna start a business that not only start a business, but it glorifies God and it sells healthy food. Oh, you're doing that, huh? Oh, good luck on that.
Tell me how that goes.
Exactly. And you'd like to talk about politics and religion all the time. Yeah, let me see tell me how that works out for you. But that's good stuff. But that's if you don't know who you are, it's enough to destroy you as an individual. Yeah.
It definitely builds strength if you navigate through all the tough times, and that's just one of hundreds of different things.
Oh yeah.
But that's the thing, is you're going through all these tough things, and if you don't have a good support system, or cannot build a proper support system over time, and it can really take a person under.
Exactly. And now we have Refinery 46. It took. It's been a year since I came down here. And for 3 years I was out in the wilderness. So I can tell you honestly, I mean, the community here is truly a godsend, because for 3 years, I'm searching for different locations, I'm interacting, I'm engaging with different people here and there. And, coming here is nothing short of perfect for what Food by the Word is and is growing into, and community. And that's the one thing, I've got blood in the soil in Indianapolis, and the one thing that's hurt me over the past decades is to see the community die in Indianapolis. The community has just been obliterated, and to see that there's a safe haven for community to reach out and start to branch back out is massive.
There's a fertile soil and everything needed in order to help you launch and build your business, expand your business. James, what's a major hurdle or challenge that you're currently dealing with right now?
Me personally, I think we talked some weeks ago. I'm talking about some of the things that I studied and things I developed, but economic trauma syndrome. And I remember I had mentioned that. And that's not you can't even find a lot of text on it, because I know about it because I'm thinking about it all the time. And I'm researching and finding things. The reality is, especially when you've come from a place when you've worked for for the system, I guess, all your life or whatever, and culturally, when you don't realize how much the culture affects you and has affected you your whole entire life, and then you wake up one morning and it's like, oh, okay, this is a real thing. Well, there's a lot of trauma involved. Me personally, realizing not just my own trauma, but the trauma of those around me. The trauma of those around me, the fears of those around me.
Yeah.
The fears of those that I come in contact with. I'm coming in contact with a lot of people. A lot of people are very afraid. 2020 is only revealing the fear that's been there. It's been there. It's been laying laden for all of our lives. I'm 46 now. So, whoever I've known for 46 years, it's been, and my father's 83, and so I talked to him, and it goes, so this stuff has been laying there. But now, the hurdle is actually also the blessing, because now we're having a conversation. We're talking about it. We're putting it out there. We're getting out there. We're talking. And this is the hard part. We have the heavy lifting to do, but now we can get to it. 2020's revealed a lot. It's revealed a whole lot. The biggest hurdle is making sure that we don't go into 2021 steadily trying to bury these issues, and we go into 2021 and actually fix these issues to grow forward. Because as we go, I'm focused on 2030, 2040. I've got a business plan drawn out already. That's got my younger grandchildren. I've got 8 grandchildren, and it's got all their names on it. Yeah. And I and I can tell you in 2041 who I plan to do what. Now, what they end up doing, but my plan is to have the opportunity for them to be in that spot, to be in that spot. And I say 2041 because my youngest, he's 1 up to 13, But this is a reality. 4 years ago, I had no idea that I can even conceive the real thought of this. But to see, this is where I'm at now. The hardest part is to see how much everybody else is struggling. Yeah. And to know, no matter how I feel, because we've had some pretty deep conversations. And these issues that we've talked about are real. And we can't bury them, but we can't run into them the way we feel. We can't. Yeah. That's not what God has intended for us to do. We can't do that. So what do we have to do? We have to really, and the hardest part is just the daily struggle of loving everybody through it. Yeah. And every and then really being what we say that we are. I did the air quotes if you can't see it on it, but being who we really say that we are. And this is the hurdle, to wake up every day. When I tell everybody about my journey on day, they go, oh my goodness, you're going so far. Here's the thing,
Well, and share with individuals. So you drive how far to get here?
Oh yeah, I drive. It's depending upon MapQuest will give you 3 routes here. One of them takes 97 miles. One of them is like 80 something miles, but basically about 100 miles one way to get here, and 100 miles back. Plus, however much driving I do. I average about 250 miles a day of driving. We live in northern Indiana, closer to Fort Wayne than we do Indianapolis, and we moved there a year ago to support my in-laws, my elderly in-laws, my wife's my mother and father, and just like she's helped me support my father here in Indianapolis, and now it's her time to get the support as well, while we're still supporting my father here in Indianapolis. So the reality, and this is where God has birthed food by the word from, and this is where we'll grow from. So this is why I do what I do, and this is why I get up, 5 days a week and come. So when I go off the grid, because ironically enough, where I live is pretty much a dead zone. If you come in my house, you're probably not going to have any reception at all. And so so it's pretty peaceful that way. But the reality of it is this is and I tell everybody, whenever you see me here in Indianapolis, know that this is a sacrifice. Because the other piece is where God has moved us to is I never want to leave. I got work to do. I got wood to cut. I got gutters to get cleaned. I got grass to cut. I got so much work to do. It's not even funny. It's crazy. I can literally put in 10 hours a day at home. Yeah. Plus I just love being there. Quite honestly, so I plan to spend the rest of my life there. That's where God delivered me to. But here's the thing about where we live at also. 4 years ago, because me and my wife had planned to move up there 4.5 years ago. But once all the division and divisiveness and everything really blew up in 2016, I said, we're never moving there. It'll never happen. We're done. It's never going to happen. Never, never, never. Nope. That'll never occur. Never. Never. I've never really been that adamant about saying never about anything. I'm gonna put that out there, I've never been that adamant about it, but God said, there's this place for you, and I'm gonna bring you, and it's time for you to, to sacrifice, and she's, sacrificed, and it's time for you to sacrifice. And I'm like, okay, cool, And so he provided us a place to live at that's nothing short of awesome. It's truly, a place where I can see God's hand every day. When I look outside, when the wind blows, it blows hard, and when you look out, you'll see some deer, and you'll see some wild turkeys. This is a beautiful place. And so I just love to stay there all day, every day. But I have to come here. There's a job that I have to do, to provide for my family, that's here in Indianapolis, because I've got blood in the soil. I've got a bird for Indianapolis. I'm never going to not be invested in Indianapolis. Yeah. Never. I'm never going to not be invested. But what God put on my heart when it comes to building the brand of Food by the Word, when you build it here, it's going to really be strong. Yeah. Then you can take it to everywhere else. Because, there's a lot of dynamics. In Indiana and Indianapolis, it's a very interesting microcosm of ideologies that are steeped in. Everybody pretty much is who they are, and they ain't wavering. So when you introduce new things, if you can build a business in Indianapolis, I think you can take that thing on the road and really make some money anywhere. But because I've seen a lot of businesses die in Indianapolis. It's a hard culture. It's a hard culture to break something new into, but it's necessary. It's necessary. And as I see the culture in Indianapolis really shifting the way it's shifting, it's from a business standpoint, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and I'm going to live where I live, and I love living, but that also gives me a lot of diverse interactions with people. See, so when I deal with people, I deal with all the people, when I say all the people, high, low, black, white, rural, urban, little.
Older, younger.
All the people.
Yeah. What's something you wish customers knew about owning a business? Like your customers, someone considering doing business with you, what do you really wish that they knew more about you and how you ran your business?
One thing I want them to know about food, I'll give you two, because there's what I want people to know about Food by the Word. Food by the Word, my genuine passion is to fulfill the value that I bring to the customer, which I don't consider customer, I consider friends. To fulfill, you buy this bottle of water from me and you get it and you receive it, that's a sweet spot for me. Not because you bought the water, but because you got what you wanted and it edifies you, and I know that I provided something for you that's good for you. You see, so that excites me. That excites me. But now, for me, what was the question again? Because I get so excited. I get to thinking about what I'm doing.
That's okay. We can edit this piece out. What's something you wish customers knew about owning a business?
Owning a business. The thing I love about the question is, though, there's so many types of businesses. Personally, here's another thing. This is even back to the business concept. Capitalism set up, everybody's supposed to own your own business. I'm just going to put that out there. If you really want to thrive in the country and get the American dream, you're supposed to. It's made for business ownership. Period. Small business to big business. Business that fits you. The thing about owning your own business is that it fits you, that it resembles you. Unlike years ago, when we did business years ago, there were a few cookie cutter ways of doing business. And this is what you did, here's the blueprint, do that, you'll be great, and then so everybody looks the same. The problem with that is it's hard to maintain and regulate that. Case in point, I've worked in several different warehouses. Now, in the warehouse and logistics business and supply chain business, warehouses are regulated. They're supposed to have a certain amount of fire extinguishers, and they're supposed to be tested, and all the exit signs have to be lit, and so forth and so on. There are regulations. Unfortunately, the cost is prohibitive for a lot of businesses to stay in regulation. a lot of times. And then you go to a massive corporation like, a pharmaceutical company, and they're doing everything right. And you're like, oh, this is how it's actually supposed to look. This is this is how it usually looks, because there's a cost involved. So count the cost, understand the cost. People are very, very, very afraid of money talk. If you're afraid of money talk, you can't have a business. Period. Because you have to not be afraid of the numbers. You have to be, very transparent with yourself and with those that you're involved with. If you're not making any money, say that. What kind of money do you need to make to sustain what you're providing? Because what happens is you decline in sales, and you try to maintain the same level of service, and so you start giving crappy service. Nothing bothers me more than to see crappy service. If I can't provide something, I learned a long time ago the hard way. Say you can't provide it. Just say you can't provide it. Your honesty is going to go a whole lot further than trying to get the dollar. I mean, if you can't provide it, I had to learn. I'm from the pizza business. And it was September of 20. I think it was 2001 or something like that. It was a tornado. It was a horrible night. Anyway, everybody wanted pizza, even though the tornadoes broke out and it was a horrible night and everything. We had to come to a realization. We had pizzas falling on the ground. It was horrible. It was horrible. But that night I learned, just stop. Just stop. Quit taking orders. Because what you're doing now, you're lying to the customer. It's going to take 45 minutes. It's going to take an hour. It's going to take 2 hours. 3 hours later, where's my pie? Where's my pie? And they would have rather you were just honest with them. Say, we can't handle the volume. We can't handle the volume. So being honest with yourself, and being honest about the numbers, and constantly educating yourself, because this thing is always moving. It's always changing. The goalposts are always going to move on you. In business, the goalposts are always going to move on you. If 2020 hasn't taught anybody anything about business, the goalposts are always going to move on you. There's no such thing as this is how we always did it. Not in business, no. And this is one of the paradigms I think a lot of people are struggling with, but it's true.
And the individuals that are able to navigate through that and pivot and move and shift gears and take a look at what's needed now versus what was needed 6 months ago, those are the individuals that are thriving. And that's a leadership moment, I think. And I think it's important that we remind each other, other business owners, about, hey, sharpen those swords.
Yeah.
And make certain that we're able to accomplish that.
Exactly. And as business leaders, we have to understand that, I know that there is a fair amount of competition, and competition is actually good, but we're not in competition. We're not in competition. The reality of it is as business leaders, we have to build and develop our own supply chains, and I'm big into supply chains. I did I went back to school a few years ago to study supply chain and logistic management. And the one thing about it is we have to develop, especially small businesses. Small businesses, we have to have each other's back and support. In this age of social media, at the end of the day, if the least thing you do is just like and share a post, you don't have to get up and go down to somebody's place and work. Just the little things, the bare minimum, or get out of the way, or open up a door for them. These sorts of things here, and so these are the things that we have to really start to focus on. The me and I-itis, mentality ain't gonna work no more. It ain't gonna work no more, especially for small businesses. Because here's the thing, I actually study the economy, and I just actually study businesses, and the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world aren't doing that. They're soaking up companies left and right. The mega conglomerates are real, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting more insulated within themselves, and so the reality of it is as a small business, we have to look at them as the suppliers, because they supply everything that we need as small businesses in order to operate. And so what we do is build those cooperatives across the board, and we stay up to date on things, and we link to those who know more, and specialize in certain things, and we have to, see what they need. I mean, my whole thing is like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Everybody that I know needs water. So guess what? I'm gonna provide you water. I mean, that's just the reality. So I mean, at the end of the day, my big thing is providing, and the next businesses that I'm starting are businesses that support businesses. I'm starting, I started a new business that supports businesses. And that's my focus is, helping people that don't, that never had a business or that have a business but need extra help in just certain different things. I mean, I'm linking up with different people, people that, do hiring or do staffing or so, these little cooperatives, this is how we do business going forward. And so, I'm pretty excited about that.
James, I always enjoy spending time and talking with you, and sharing ideas, and sharpening each other's swords, right? I mean,
yes,
that's what happens when you have business owners that get together and
exactly
have those types of conversations. Thank you so much, James, for sitting down with us today and
sharing
your story about your incredible business.
Thanks for having me. I mean, and I look forward to seeing everybody. I'm down here in the basement. Come on by, go to foodbytheword.com. Find me on any social media. Link up with me and we'll talk, and just like me and Josh do, and my whole thing is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, time is flying. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now is going we're going to have a very interesting environment. But I look for Food by the Word to be steeped right in the middle of that whole entire environment. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, man.
Yes, indeed.
Good stuff.
Yes, indeed. I'll tell you, I mean, it's never a dull moment. I'll tell you. we got, I get so excited. I almost had to have somebody calm me down sometimes. But
have you been in Indy a big part of today, or did you just?
No, I've been here. I've been running around all day.
Yeah.
I've been here all day. I've been all over the north. I've been from downtown to Carmel already.
Have you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been all around town today, and it's interesting. And I'll be running around till about 7 tonight. And in the mix. Matter of fact, I'll be taking my father some supper back over in a little bit, and then I'll be running around. Yeah. I mean,
I forgot to get a snapshot. Can I take a picture?
Yeah. Go right ahead. Yeah. I got my mask off. Yeah. And before you know it, time is flying. It'll be October 2nd here in a moment. Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking forward to the reading, and my whole thing is to get as much content as possible. I'm gonna record everything, and I'm gonna post it on my YouTube channel. So I do a lot of YouTube.
Is that September?
October 2nd.
October 2nd,
5 to 7.
Friday.
Yep, 5 to 7, and and then that's going to be really interesting because I'm gonna break down the book. Because when I really look at it from line to line, and because I'm actually, as I'm developing the next series and everything, it's going to be, I'm getting a lot of traction. This is one product that I can provide anywhere in the world right now. And the gravity of the message is something that needs to be spread around the world. But I'm providing it, people in Virginia, your friend in Texas, out in Colorado, down south, in Atlanta, my reach on this, it actually spawned in my mind, I need to get some more media products developed. I don't know what they are, but I need to get some more media products developed, that I can offer on foodbytheword.com. Because I'm like, yeah, I like this a lot. I mean, I know the rest of my book series, I'm gonna publish myself the same way as well. Yeah. But I'm like, well, I've been thinking about this for years, though. It's not nothing new. You've heard my little theme song, my little jingle, what I'm saying, Food by the Word, we're about to eat it up. The young fellow who developed and made that for me a couple years ago, that's when my mind really got to burst. And I'm like, yeah, I want, Food by the Word to be involved in music, and want, we want to do this, and want to do that, and want to do, and I had to, get everything watered down, because eventually, Food by the Word Inc. will be covering a lot of territory. We'll cover a lot of territory, not just food, but it's the culture. That's why it's the culture. It's the culture. It's the that's what it embodies. And this particular message of the bear, I've spread it around in my family, and the elders have spoken, and they like, we want to hear more about what led. So the next series are going to actually be. So this is actually was basically the end, and now I'm gonna have to develop the backstories, of okay, how did we get here? They're like Indy, what I'm saying? Well, how did it happen? Bring it forward. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So the next series are actually going to be what led up to, getting the bear to this position, and because it's been very impactful, like when I say the elders, I mean my father and my aunt, a good family friend, the elders, and I mean it's the ones who always hold you accountable, the ones who if you're doing something silly. My father, I'm gonna tell you, my father, if you're doing something silly, he has no problem in saying, well, you're just being stupid. That's just kind of how, that's how he talks. But this has been something that's been, he's given me the nod, and he's gotten very excited about it. And he's my editor, he's my business counsel. And so, the direction that I'm taking now, when I do this reading on the second, and I'm gonna actually break it down and everything. I'm actually gonna take what I extrapolate from it, and that's how I'm gonna use to develop the other series, which is gonna be at least 2 to 3 more, because this one was points out systemic racism. It points it out and brings it to the but now we're gonna get more specific into the next one is gonna be the economic trauma. So the economic systematic racism, and then educational systematic racism, and all the way through. Okay, how did we get here? Because, and I tell people, quite literally, when I say systemic, every system, like that one conversation we had, every system across the board, and it's like, okay, how do you get that out? Well, 2020 is a prime example. It's a purge in many ways. But one of the biggest things that I've come to realize and started to understanding from a business standpoint, now I've been talking to people about ESG investment, Now have you heard about
ESG?
Yeah, ESG. Now ESG, and they started developing it a few years ago, about 7, 8 years ago. Matter of fact, I think after Trayvon Martin got murdered, they started developing. And what that is it's a ranking system that they give corporations, different businesses and everything, all of them, they rank them, and that's, they rank them on, their effects on the environment, the actual environment, total environment, and their effects on social climate, and their governance. That's ESG. So it's environmental, social, and governance. And this ranking is what investors are using to see the health of these companies. Huh. And there's, I think last figure, it was like $30 trillion under ESG investment right now. I mean, it's global, and it's global.
See, I wonder if Daniel Pointer knows about that. I'm gonna text him.
Yeah, I mean, because
he's got the Carbon Neutral Indiana.
Okay. Yeah, ask him. No, we haven't met yet. We got to meet. We got a lot of people to meet still. And the thing, and this is why you see a lot of companies now picking up social mantles. Now they're putting on logos, and they're holding culture accountable. Inside of their businesses and outside of their business, they're funding movements and everything, and they're lending their names to different issues and so forth, because now it's economically feasible for them as they're restructuring their companies, to grow forward and everything. Because one thing for sure, Gen Z, they're not having it. These Gen Z, those are the 25 to 5 years. These ones, you got a house full of them.
Yeah.
They're not having it. They're not having it. They're holding the older generations to task. And on climate change, it's not a game. And so ESG investments cover a lot of that on how companies are responding to that. They're responding at the top. I mean, the at the top, the Amazons, the Apples, these investment groups are responding to it. Blackwater, they're just, it's real money behind this thing. And so the reality of it is okay, where do we fit into that? And I think about, so I say all that to say, when I think about the context of Food by the Word, growing forward, okay, Food by the Word speaks to the culture. And my whole focus is you at work, where you're at, And so here's the reality. I look and see Food by the Word becoming value to. And so as I grow forward, I see nothing but upside. Nothing but upside. So I think about it, and then I look at, okay, as I build the structure of, Food by the Word, and 10, 20 years out, I'd rather be in the game than having to catch up to the game. A lot of businesses, a lot of corporations right now are having to catch up to the game. They refused to change when they should have, and now they're falling off. I don't. And this sounds a little cynical, but I don't have a lot of empathy for a lot of companies that refused to acquiesce to culture and to actually provide to people, and then now they're closing doors. They refused to respond, when people said, we don't like being treated bad. They refused to respond when, you're gouging me, and being somebody who provides, food products, I know, I look at the margins. The fact of the matter is, I could provide you this for, I can throw, I can throw a 20% margin on this, from like the other guys, or, 2 or 3%, call it a day. Make it so that you can afford it, and go, become more productive wherever you're going, and being where you're at, and something that edifies you, and then be able to come into a culture and purchase it from a place that's not going to make you feel like a horrible person. Because at the end of the day, when I talk to Gen Z, this is what they want. This is what they're looking for. So my whole thought process is, okay, I'm gonna listen to them. Over the past few weeks, I've gotten some feedback from them that I'm like, okay, I gotta implement this and gotta implement that, and just different things. It's on the board. It's on the board. I'm not, listening to, when it comes to, I've got enough personal experience in business, and then what I don't have in experience, my father has. Here's a man who's got several levels, and several levels of entrepreneurship. He started more businesses than anybody I know. He's had businesses in Virginia, in Colorado, and in Indianapolis. He's been around. So, he's somebody else that gives me another perspective. But this perspective I get from Gen Z is like so fresh. It's so fresh. It makes sense. It makes sense to what's going on now. In the conversations I'm having, like ESG investment, quantum computers, I'm having these conversations with folks, because there's a lot of things that, we're in this slipstream of. It's 2020 now. It's going to be 2030 in 2 minutes.
Right.
What's that going to look like? Well, I'm talking to my cousin. He drives over the road, and he actually gets water. He drives a tanker. He gets the water from the well and delivers it to the bottler, for Niagara Water and everything. And so he delivers foodstuffs, and so I talk to him and I get his feedback on different things. I get that perspective, and then so I'm having all these different conversations.
Amazing that one time the idea of someone taking gasoline, time, energy, logistics to move water.
Yep.
From one spot to another.
Yep.
That seems insane.
It is.
But the price of water somehow manage to go up and up and up.
Exactly. It's a very, valuable commodity that's readily available. But as we become a convenience culture, that's what drives it all. I mean, we want it when we want it. That's it. We want it when we want it. We've learned to expect it when we can expect it. And if I can't get it from here, I'll go over here and get it. And so it's at our fingertips. You have it's the Jetsons now. We're in the Jetsons. This is Star Trek. You go to the replicator and get dinner. Boom. And so and this is where we are. But what's interesting to me though is I'm aware of this. I'm seeing this. What's interesting to me is how many people I talk to that are late to the game. I'm like, I thought I was late to the game. No, actually, I was early to the game. And everybody else, I'm like, who was at the game? The whole time, who was at the game?